end up wasting the present. That's why I think that having an impact after you are gone can only be done by paying attention to what you're doing every day, every moment, right now. It's based on living core values that create a reputation you are known for, a reputation based on your interaction with individuals that influences their behavior through their thoughts and actions, that then carries on through their interaction with other individuals, and on and on and on. That's how an impact lasts. So how do you do it? How do you live your life so you have the answers to the questions I just mentioned? How do you give meaning and purpose to your life so it will have a lasting impact? Luckily, my friend Chris has written this book to show you how. Pay attention to his words. Think about the stories he tells about his life and the examples he uses of others. Think about how you can use them to alter your thoughts, words, and actions, so they will have an impact that lasts. Read the book. Heed the book. Create a life that matters now and always will. Create a life that leaves a gold glitter residue that can't be forgotten. Introduction. I've had a crazy life. As I write this, I'm 53 years old, and believe me, it's been quite a ride. Let me tell you about it. I was born in 1966 into an affluent home in Seattle, Washington. My father was a partner at NBBJ, which at the time was a large regional architectural firm, but now has become one of the biggest and most influential architectural firms in the world. In fact, they designed the brand new Google headquarters. My dad was the CFO of the firm. In 1969, my dad made $90,000. Many people today would love to make $90,000, but in 1969, that was what a friend of mine calls gangster money. In 1970, my dad died of cancer. They discovered it in May, and he died in November. Of course, that was devastating, but to add to the devastation, my dad only had $30,000 worth of life insurance. So he left my mother and his children in quite a conundrum. The home that we lived in was the biggest and most beautiful home in the Sandpoint Country Club. It overlooked the golf course, Lake Washington, and in the distance the Cascade Mountain Range. That home sold in 2013 for $1.88 million. Unfortunately, at the time, my mother couldn't afford the $400 mortgage payments. So we moved to a small condominium on the other side of town. Thus began my downward spiral. I did not handle the adversity well. I began to act out in school and cause problems. My brothers and sisters were considerably older than me, and they were out of the home shortly after my dad died. Because of the distance between the ages of my closest sibling and me, I guess you could say I was an oops baby. I'll give you the brief overview of the head-spinning years that were my childhood. I moved dozens of times, went to 11 different schools, and was shipped off to live with relatives twice, once in the 4th grade and again in the 9th grade. One day in the 4th grade, my mother and I were in the car and began heading east out of Seattle on I-90. I asked her where we were going, and she told me that we were going to visit my Uncle Paul in Aunt Rochelle. I was happy with that because I liked my Uncle Paul and Aunt Rochelle. But when I asked my mother how long we were staying, her answer was strange. She told me that she was going to be staying 2 hours. Now, in the 4th grade, you haven't perfected your deductive reasoning skills yet, but I knew something wasn't right. I asked how long I was staying, and I was told that I was going to be staying with my Aunt Rochelle and my Uncle Paul for 2 years. My Uncle Paul was a log truck driver and was nearly a caricature of what you would think a wild truck driver would look like. He had a big, bushy beard, weighed about 250 pounds, and wore big red suspenders to keep his jeans up. He donned these big boots that you would wear in the woods. Funny enough, my Aunt Rochelle was also a log truck driver. Her nickname was Sarge, and she had 50 pounds on my Uncle Paul. The idea was they were going to whip me into shape. Emphasis on the whip. Well, I proved to be too much to handle even for my Aunt Rochelle and my Uncle Paul. They sent me home to my mother after the 5th grade. I began to use drugs and alcohol in the 6th grade and made most of my money betting the horses at Long Acres Racetrack and scalping professional sporting event tickets outside of the arenas. In the 9th grade, I was shipped off to live with my sister and her husband, a Seattle police officer.